on the record on People versus Devon Robinson. Appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. May I report Jamie Powell-Horowitz.
Good morning, Your Honor. Evan Callahan on behalf of the defendant.
If people are ready to call their next witness,
Yes, Your Honor.
please bring the jury out.
All rise for the jury. You may be seated and please remain quiet.
Madam Prosecutor, call your next witness.
People call Officer Cecil.
Good morning. Spell your first and last name for the record.
Patrick,
Thank you. Raise your hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So we got it. Thank you. You may be seated. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Wayne State Police Officer Patrick Cecil,
Where were you assigned back on May 25th of 2019?
the Detroit Homicide Task Force.
Did you go to the area of 3474 Devonshire, which was the scene in this case?
I did.
Did you go across the street to 3469 Devonshire?
I did.
For what purpose?
For purposes of video retrieval, we noticed some cameras attached to the house.
Did these cameras face 3474 Devonshire?
They do.
Did you perform an extraction?
I did.
What is that?
Basically a method of retrieving the video that was on whatever recording device was at the location.
The 3469 Devonshire, is that a house?
It is.
Is this a personal recording equipment from that house?
Yeah, it's a personal DVR system.
What kind of a system?
I believe it was a Night Owl DVR system.
And did you prepare for this case an exhibit which has been labeled as number 28 in this case?
I did.
Mr. Callahan, you have a copy of number 28? And what does that consist of?
Video from 3469 Devonshire, the video that was extracted from. It's partial of the video that was extracted from Devonshire.
As part of the homicide task force, were you directed by the officer in charge of the case to look at relevant times in the case?
I was.
Did you do so?
I did.
What kind of a camera was this again?
The DVR was a Night Owl. When we were performing the extraction, it was observed to be recording upon motion. So the vehicle or the camera device was recording upon motion.
Okay, so this is not the kind of camera that just continuously records what's happening in the area.
Correct.
It has to be set off by motion.
Correct. Some sort of pixel disruption in the cameras, whatever the camera's field for that motion would have to trigger the recording device.
Okay, so when we're talking about a field of motion for this camera, it's limited?
In my training experiences, yes, it is limited. Yes.
So in other words, if the camera is filming something and catches something, it doesn't necessarily mean that was in its field of motion. Is that correct?
Correct.
It has to have something that's actually in its field of motion to trigger recording.
Yes, in my training experience, yes.
Okay. What is your training experience?
So in the last 2 years, and while assigned to the homicide task force the last 3 years, and the last 2 years in service training with Sergeant Lance Sullivan of the Detroit Police Department, who testified as an expert.
Okay. So anybody can do an extraction, though, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right. In this case, did you review the video in this case for a few hours?
Yes.
All right, and then you were directed by the officer in charge to focus down on the relevant time periods involved in this case?
Correct.
All right, and were you able to tell whether or not activity at 3474 Devonshire would activate the motion happening, would activate the camera across the street?
When reviewing the video, so we pulled 12 hours, but per the OIC, it was requested to view certain time frames, and it appeared that whatever motion was happening across the street was not triggering the device.
How can you tell that?
A car would arrive, you could see a car arrive.
Across the street?
Across the street, and then...
3474 Devonshire?
Yes. A car would arrive across the street, and then the next time it would be recording, the car would be gone. Or you'd see some people in the yard of 3474 Devonshire, and then the recording would stop, almost like they were moving. If it was continuously recording, it would, or if the motion was being triggered by them, it would have continued recording.
So what triggers this camera is motion that is occurring closer to the camera than exists at 3474 Devonshire.
Correct.
All right, did you look at time periods between 4:50 a.m. and 5:05 a.m.?
Yes, I did.
Why?
It was directed by the OIC to concentrate on those times.
And are those the subject of what is in exhibit number 28?
It is.
This was prepared by you?
Yes.
Move for the admission?
Any objection?
Objection.
Excuse me?
No objection.
May I publish?
Exhibit 28 is admitted, and you may publish.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask that you explain what we're seeing as it's happening. I'm going to have you turn around and speak very loudly.
Yep.
And I'm going to ask that you also note the times. We'll talk about the adjustments when we're done.
Can everyone in the jury box see what's on the TV?
What do you see right now?
So right now we're looking at video from 3469 Devonshire. The video is facing, Mac would be, what are we calling Devonshire if we're calling that north south?
The video is facing east.
So this video would be facing east. You see the center of this, I'm not sure.
All right, let's go back. We're going to start it over.
Yep. There appears to be some sort of debris in the camera field.
Okay, so the timestamp right now is 4:50, 6:50.
Correct.
All right. I want to start it over again. And I'm going to have you pause it. Pause it, please. All right. The timestamp is 4:51 a.m. on May 25th, 2019. Is this the camera that is facing 3474 Devonshire?
It is, yes. You can see the 3474 Devonshire in the top right, right hand of the screen.
Mr. Marcus, can you highlight the corner of the screen that you just pointed to, please, where the porch steps are? All right, that's our subject location.
Correct.
All right, this starts at 4:51 a.m. What happens?
So the video will continue to play. It's recording upon motion. We know that because there's gaps in the video extraction. It's not continuously recording.
All right.
It appears, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, is there a blue screen that we're going to see in between clips?
Yep.
What is that?
That blue screen was implemented just to show that the video had stopped recording, or the device had stopped recording. The motion had stopped recording, and there's a 3-second gap. You'll see a blue window notifying or letting you guys know that it's a new recording now. So it started recording again for whatever reason.
Are you able to see what triggers the recording?
And not necessarily, and that's why I was trying to explain, there appears to be some sort of debris on the camera itself. Whether it's a string, a cobweb, it appears to be some sort of debris. You see the big bright white dot in the middle with some almost like strings attached to it. I'm not sure what that is, but there appears to be some sort of debris on the camera itself.
So, anything that's in the field of motion, within this camera's field of motion will trigger, correct?
Correct.
But what's across the street is not in its field of motion.
In my training experience, it doesn't appear to be. The field of motion, for most of the motion-based systems, it is customizable, but it is normally directed to the center of the camera. That's where you're going to get the most, if you get pixels. Thank you. So if there's the center of the field of the view for the camera, if you get the pixel disruption in here, then you're going to start getting that trigger for motion.
Can a spotlight trigger it?
Yeah, lights bouncing off of houses and trees, a tree, a bush swaying, leaves falling.
Wind can trigger it?
Wind can trigger if anything's moving, if wind's causing that tree to move, then it can trigger the motion.
All right, so we have 451:51 showing right now. We're gonna continue it, and I want you to tell us what's happening as it's happening, please.
Yep. So right now the device is recording
4:52 a.m.?
4:52 a.m.
All right, pause it, please. All right, the last that we saw it was 4:52, is that correct? 4:52:25?
Correct.
All right, is there a lag time here?
And there is, so one thing we do whenever we pull video, you're gonna synchronize the system or kind of verify the system. So you wanna compare whatever the time is showing on the DVR to the world clock time. I did that in this case, and
So the world clock, how many seconds are we talking about?
if I can review that video extraction recording. Correct.
May I approach?
I believe you did indicate for the record that it would refresh his recollection.
That's correct, I was going to answer this.
Thank you. In this instance, the device was found to be 42 seconds slow when compared to the world clock.
Okay, so 4:52:25 would actually be 4:53:07, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to play the video. All right, pause it, please. So it then picks up again at 4:56:41.
Correct. That is the next recording that was on the device.
All right, so there was 4-minute lag time? We're missing 4
Right.
minutes? And
Give or take, yes.
all right, so 4:56:41 would translate to 4:57:23, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, play it, please. Pause it again, please. 4:57:18. The camera stopped again. All right.
The ending of that just showing, this is that blue screen, so you get the motion was, for whatever reason, the device stopped recording. Now it's gonna start recording with the next recording that was on the device, on the extraction.
Okay. Please play again. Gonna start again at 4:57:31. Stopped again, for the record. Picked up 4:57:41. $4:57:50. What is that?
So you see, subject, exit the porch of our target address and run eastbound down Devonshire Street.
And that ends at 4:58:02. Is that correct?
Correct.
Time was that when it started?
I had to go back and.
Did you canvass the scene?
I did,
Okay, so this is Devonshire Street we're looking at.
correct.
Okay, and we just saw an individual leaving 3474 Devonshire, head down Devonshire, and then turn on to, is that Brunswick down there?
Yes, I believe so. That's,
Is that
yep,
Brunswick headed towards Buckingham?
correct. That would be Brunswick. Yes, yes.
Would you like to look at a map?
It would help.
Will that help refresh your recollection?
It would, yes.
Thank you. I'm gonna hand you people's two. so we're gonna go back and play that clip again, please. Again, for the record, starting at 4:57:41. All right, looking at that map, can we pause it again? The person is heading from Devonshire to Brunswick to the direction of Buckingham.
It appears so, yes. It appears definitely that next cross street, so Brunswick would be, see where that street light is?
Yes.
Just from the canvas, and the street light was at Brunswick and Devonshire, and the subject running appears to take a left from Devonshire to Brunswick towards Buckingham.
All right, let's continue to play, please. Pause it again, please. Picking up again at 4:59:02. And just for the record, we are going to have about 4 minutes of playtime on it. We have to cut off again, 4:59. For the record, picking up again at 5:00:34. And for the record, there is no audio with this camera, is that correct?
Correct. There's a...
For the record, sorry, picking up at 5:04:44 again. All right, can we pause that? So we just saw light come into the screen. Did you see that?
Correct.
All right, and that is not what triggered that camera because it was recording earlier, right?
Correct.
Right, so there was something else that triggered that we didn't see.
Correct.
All right, we're at 5:05:24. $5:05:39. We're seeing lights.
Yeah, so the flashing lights, believe it,
Indicative of what?
indicative of law enforcement, police arriving, first responders arriving. If it continues to play, you'll see a police scout car will roll into view of the camera here. And just to clarify, for the audio stream, there's an audio stream attached to the file, but it appeared to be almost like the 60 megahertz hum, that there was no microphone attached to the camera or the recording device, because it's just like a low 60 megahertz hum, consistent with, like, I don't, if you would, the old record players, the old stereo, it's just that low hum. It's like a low 60 megahertz hum. There's no audio. It's just on. There's no microphone attached.
We have no idea.
Correct.
All right, can we go back to 452.25, please, converted as 453.07? It's gonna be the end of the first page. For the record, we're looking at 452.01.
45202.
452.02. All right, 452.25 is when that left out, and there was testimony that converted, that's 53.07. Is that correct?
Correct. 42 seconds. So if the time was 42 seconds slow, you'd add 42 seconds to get to the actual real clock time.
Okay, so the real time of that clip would be 4:53 a.m. and 07 seconds.
Correct.
By the world clock time.
Correct.
All right, and you don't know if any other cameras were set to world clock time in this case, do you?
No.
Just
correct.
this one?
Just this
All right.
one.
So 4:53.07, this motion-activated camera stops recording what's happening across from Devonshire, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, in the next clip, we're gonna have a 4-minute and 16-second gap, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so we have 4 minutes and 16 seconds where we've got no video of what's happening.
From that device, from the DVR that I extracted, there's a 4-minute clip.
Okay, and again,
4-minute gap.
and again, what is happening across the street is not triggering that camera. to
Correct.
click.
And does not appear that whatever's happening across the street is triggering that device to record.
So whatever we're getting from across the street is just luck.
What you could say you got lucky. Yes.
All right, so let's keep playing it. For 4:56.41, translating to 4:57.23 on a world clock. Is that correct?
Correct.
Please play it again. Pause it, please. 4:57.18 translates to 4:58 on the world clock.
Correct.
In the next frame, if you see any movement when it initially starts, please let me know. We're going to play it.
And
Pause
there's-
it. 4:57.33.
whether that was what triggered the device or not, but you can visually see some sort of like fly or bug fly through the frame here from right to left at the lower portion of the camera.
And obviously this is recording before we see anyone come from the house across the street.
Correct.
Please continue to play. Okay, stop please. All right. The end of that clip, 4:58.07, would translate to 4:58:09? 4:58,
Those
49.
42 seconds would be
4:58:49,
Yep.
okay. All right, so when the person's out of the frame, it's 4:58:49.
correct. Yeah, we're
58:49,
No, yes, 4:58:49 seconds.
that's when he runs.
Oh, that's,
This
no,
would be
that's
four-
out of
four-
frame, that's when he's out of frame.
What frame is it that he runs across? I'm
Do you
sorry.
want us to play it again?
This would be 4:58 and 48 seconds. So we're adding just 42 seconds to what we have here. So it'd be
Right.
4:58, 42, and that ellipse that was tracking the subject is out of frame.
The ellipse was the green thing. correct?
Exactly,
Okay.
yes, the ellipse is a green thing, and that obviously was not, when when the recording was extracted, that wasn't on there. So that's put on there after the fact, just to help everyone visualize and to see. Also, you notice when you're watching that clip, the light, the camera lightens up. That's a filter applied. It's just an artificial light filter applied to help everyone see what's going on.
Let's go back and play the clip for Mr. Callahan one more time.
That's okay.
All right, we can stop, thank you. Okay, so between 4:53 and 4:57, world clock time, we don't have 4 minutes of footage.
From this device, we don't have any recordings.
Okay, and again, what's happening across the street does not appear to be in the field of motion for this camera.
Does not appear to be correct, triggering the motion, the recording device.
So anything that we get from across the street was just from that one.
Correct.
Thank you, Kevin.
Cross-examination?
Oh, Your Honor, may I ask, there was one other area you covered.
You may.
Thank you. I'm sorry, were you also working with Homicide Task Force back on June 5th of 2019?
I was, yes.
What capacity?
Same capacity as a investigator.
Did you go to 2052, 2054 Claremont, a duplex located in the city of Detroit?
I did,
For what purpose?
to execute a search warrant.
And did you encounter anyone in the courtroom that was at that location on that date?
I was, no, I did not.
You were just there for the search warrant?
Correct.
All right, did you recover a firearm in that case?
I did.
Where did you recover that from?
The address,
Would your report refresh
my
your
report
recollection?
would definitely refresh my memory.
May I approach Judge?
You may.
From 2052 Claremont.
Did you recover a firearm from that location?
I did.
And was it placed on evidence?
It was,
And I'm going to approach with what has been marked as proposed 33, which has been cleared for the record. Mr. Callahan, would you like to see it? May I approach?
You may. What exhibit is that?
This is 33, Your Honor.
My exhibit list seems to stop at 27. Is there a second page that I should have?
No, Your Honor. May we approach?
You may. We're back on the record. You're approaching the witness.
Yes, sir. Handing you 33. What is that?
one black Glock 40 semi-automatic handgun. That's a Glock 22.
Block 22.
Correct.
All right, would you please just open that up and show it to the jury what it looks like? for the record, you are wearing gloves.
I am wearing gloves.
Thank you. Officer, did you do anything else when you were at that location?
I did. There was some other, so while at the location, directed evidence techs who recovered the property, recovered this property, photographs some property, to conduct all the photographs of the location and to swab the firearm.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Are you having exhibit 33 admitted?
Move for its submission, Your Honor. Apologize.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 33 is admitted.
Thank you, Judge.
Cross-examination.
So the record's clear, the individual that's seen running across the lawns or whatever pathways, that person, we don't know what that person is wearing, do we?
No,
We don't see that person's face, do we?
no.
Do you know what type or what caliber weapon was used at the scene of the homicide?
I do not.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not the gun which you've confiscated is in fact the weapon?
Correct.
In fact, do you know that it's not the weapon?
I was told there was it's a different caliber, but I'm not sure what caliber was used at the scene.
Thank you.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Detective Cecil, you'd like to excuse.
Thank you.
I'll take 33 back from you.
Next witness.
People call Officer Blaze.
Counselor, would you please slow down?
Good morning, spell your first and last name for the record.
Jordan Grace, JORDANGRACE.
Thank you. Raise your right hand for me, please. You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. You may be seated.
Counselor, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Jordan Grace,
How are you employed?
with the Detroit Police Department as a police officer.
Where are you currently assigned?
To the 4th Precinct.
Back on June 5th of 2019, where were you assigned?
I was still working with the 4th Precinct, but we went to the 10th Precinct.
Why did you do that?
We were notified by the Homicide Headquarters Surveillance Task Force that they had a suspect that they were watching, wanted for a triple homicide.
So did you go to 2052 and 2054 duplex on Claremont Street?
Yes,
For what purpose?
to apprehend the suspect wanted.
Was someone taken into custody there?
Yes,
Who was that person?
Devon Robinson.
Do you see him in court today?
Yes,
For the record, could you please indicate where he was seated, or where he is seated and what he is wearing?
he's seated. right there in front of me, wearing a black suit.
Let the record reflect, the witness identified the defendant, in this case, Mr. Robinson.
The record will reflect the identification.
You were part of the arrest team,
Yes,
and you saw the defendant placed into custody?
yes.
Right. We're gonna approach with proposed 18. Officer Graves, when we're hearing you,
Yes, ma'am?
is that the address that you went to?
Yes,
And that's the address where the defendant was arrested at?
yes.
Move for the omission of 18.
Any objection?
May I
Exhibit
publish?
18 is admitted.
May I publish?
You may publish.
Officer Grace, I can direct your attention to the screen. Where was the defendant when you first put eyes on him?
He was sitting on the porch on the top step.
Do you remember what he was wearing?
He was wearing red shorts with no shirt.
Approaching proposed exhibit number 20. Am I showing you?
The defendant with no shirt and red shorts on.
Move for the omission of 20.
Any objection?
No objection.
Admitted.
May I publish?
You may.
What is the jury seeing?
That's the defendant that we had apprehended that day.
Dressed as you described?
Yes.
Looking at the defendant's hair, is it like it is in court today?
No.
There's no braids on the top of the head?
No.
Thank you, I confirm it.
Cross-examination.
You and how many others were in this arrest team?
I was with Scout 1030 and Scout 432 and Scout 433.
How many officers does that add up?
Roughly 8 officers.
And what did you do, surround the residence?
Yes, we had officers in the rear and officers in the front of the location, sir.
And he was sitting on the front porch, he was apprehended at the front porch, right?
Yes, sir.
And so he didn't run, did he?
No, sir.
And you took him into custody and you put him in the back of your car, is that, do I understand that correctly?
Not in the back of my car, no.
So that picture that we've got here, the exhibit, whatever it is,
18.
18, that's not the back of your car,
No,
that you didn't take that photo.
no.
So just for the record, it's exhibit 20, Your Honor.
Exhibit 20.
Excuse me.
Nothing from the,
Any redirection?
No, Your Honor.
You have been excused.
Thank you.
People call Sergeant Wellman.
Good morning, please state your name.
Robert Wellman.
Spell it for the court for me, please.
Robert Common Spelling, last name is W-E-L-L-M-A-N.
Thank you. Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Have you got?
Yes.
You may be seated. Ma'am?
You may.
Good morning.
Morning.
Could you please state your name for the record?
I'm Sergeant Robert Wellman,
Where do you work?
Detroit Police Department's Major Crimes Unit.
You're currently in major crimes?
Yes,
Did you do some cell phone mapping for us in the case involving People versus Devon Robinson?
I did.
Did you receive call detail records for a handset belonging to Sabrina Bates with a number 313-264-4649?
Yes,
Did that come from the officer in charge of this case?
yes.
What did you do with relation to that?
She gave me a time period that she wanted to pull out the records. I pulled those out of the records.
All right, did you receive training to do this?
I did.
Tell me about that.
Received over 121 hours worth of training in relationship to call detail records and mapping with the state police, Celebrate, PLX.
Do you have an area of expertise?
Yes,
What is your area of expertise?
cell phone mapping and CDR analytics.
Have you ever testified as an expert in cell phone mapping, and what was the other classification?
CDR analytics.
CDR is what?
Analytics, call record detail.
So call detail records
Call detail
analytics.
records.
How many times have you testified in those fields?
As an expert,
Yes.
6 times.
Ever failed to qualify?
No.
Any questions, Mr. Conner?
No questions.
Will the court accept his testimony as an expert in those two fields?
The court will qualify Sergeant Wellman as an expert in cell phone mapping and CDR analytics.
Thank you, Your Honor. As the handset that you had information belonged to Ms. Bates in this case, what did you do with that handset?
Receive the records, and then
Records being call detail records?
call detail records.
What are those for the jury?
Whenever you make phone calls on your cell phone, the conversation is reported into a document that the cell phone company keeps. And then we provide, on a case-by-case basis, a search warrant to the cell phone carrier for whatever time period is that we're looking for. And then they send us those records. And those records are composed of phone calls, text messages to and from the particular device.
So those records are kept by the phone company and not by the personal user?
Correct.
All right, so the personal user cannot alter those records, is that
They
correct?
cannot, that's correct.
Because they belong to the phone company.
That's correct.
Are we able to get GPS mapping for phones?
Not specific to like an exact location for a GPS map.
So I have an iPhone and I can track my phone's location. Are we able to do that with people's personal cell phones?
Not through this process, no.
Why not?
It's not,
Wouldn't we?
there's a law that does allow it.
Protect privacy?
Correct.
Can you get GPS locations for an ongoing emergency,
Yes,
like the kidnapping?
sure.
Is a homicide, a completed homicide by law considered an ongoing emergency?
No,
So in this case, we have call detail records.
that's correct.
What do these consist of, call detail records?
The in and out communications between the phone numbers, the devices, as well as when it's captured, cell phone tower locations.
What's a cell phone tower?
So cell phone tower is basically the tower that's somewhere where you're driving, walking, to wherever you're standing. When you make a phone call, the phone reaches out to that cell phone tower to communicate to another device.
And a cell phone tower can service a large area, is that correct?
That is correct.
What is the potential range for cell phone towers?
It varies by carrier, varies by circumstances, time of day, traffic, the amount of buildings in the area, the weather, all these things could affect how far out it goes.
So it's not exact, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you do mapping for the number that you had information belonged to Ms. Bates in this case?
I did.
Tell me about that.
I was given a time period for that was needed to be mapped. I took the cell phone records and put them into a software program that we use called PLX, and then that software program allows me to map, if it's mappable, what sector the phone was used on when it was making a call. So a cell phone tower is broadcasting 360 degrees, so it's a circle, and it's broken up into 3 different sectors, sector 1, 2, and 3, and that's like directional. So when you make a phone call, it tells you specifically which sector of that 360 degrees the phone call is making.
You prepared a document in this case, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
As an example of what you did in this case?
Yes.
May I approach Turner?
You may.
Handing you proposed 19. What is that?
This is the document I prepared.
What does it consist of?
It has call records for 5/25/2019 for the phone number of 313-264-4649, as well as a map still shot.
Move for the admission of 19, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
How many-
Exhibit 19 is admitted.
Thank you. Sergeant, how many calls did you look at?
There was 10 calls.
What is the time range?
It starts at 00:34:29 to be 12:34 p.m. or a.m. excuse me, going to 04:50:23, which would be 4:50 a.m.
So is there a call made at 2:16 a.m.?
There is.
Who does that go to?
That goes to 313-287-6044, identified as a Mallory Robinson.
Do you know who Mallory Robinson is in this case?
I do.
What is the time duration on that 2:16 a.m. call?
That time duration was 5 minutes and 7 seconds.
The next call after that, what time is it?
At 4:50:23,
4:50:23 a.m.?
4:50 a.m. at 23 seconds.
What number does that go to?
It goes to the same number, 313-287-6044,
Number associated with who?
Mallory Robinson.
What is the duration of that call?
The duration of that call is 1 second.
Less than 1 second or 1 second?
Well, it's documented as 1 second.
What does that indicate to you?
But there's no communication.
A call made but no communication.
Correct.
Did you plot, or did you map any of these calls?
I did.
Which one?
The second page there is a screenshot of the 450 call was mapped,
The one that was dialed but no communication?
right?
What was the location of that?
The area of Mack Avenue and Alter would be where the tower is, and the sector would encompass what was given to me as the scene of location.
So the sector that this phone is registering on involves the scene 3474 Devonshire?
3474 Devonshire, correct.
Does it also include 3440 Buckingham?
I'm not sure what time it's at.
Do you know where Buckingham is in relation to Devonshire? You're only looking at the scene, is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Cross-examination.
You don't know where Buckingham is in relationship to Devonshire? What if I told you?
Your Honor, I'll stipulate that it encompasses 3440 Buckingham.
We have a stipulation for the record that it encompasses.
Then I'll just leave it alone.
Thank you.
No further
Redirect.
questions.
No, Your Honor.
Are you thinking excused? Call your next witness.
Your Honor, I need to see if some birth civilians are here.
How long is that gonna take you?
These are members of the defendants. Signing them.
We will allow the jury to go back into the jury room. All rise for the jury, please.
You may be seated.
One second.